Hello, good morning to all. Am I audible to you? Okay, Anurag. Okay, thank you. So, shall we start the session?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sir. So, today we come to the last session of Professional Communication Module 4, and Sir will be continuing the session today. So, now I invite Sir to start the session. Sir, please.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good morning, all of you students. Here we meet again. How are you? Are you all there? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ashwin. Agarsh. Sriraj, good morning. Anugrah, good morning. Anurag, good morning. Varsha, Anugrah, Akshara, Agna. Okay, see, this is basically about listening skills. Okay, once we go through this session, you will understand why I ask this kind of feedback from all of my classes. Okay, so just I want a small feedback before we start. How many of you did that step test yesterday? How many of you did that step test yesterday? Anybody? Yeah, Niharika, good. Anybody else? Anugrah, good. Anurag, sorry. I keep confusing between Anugrah and Anurag. Okay. Anybody else? Only two. Nobody else did it. Okay, Agarsh is there. Nainika, Fatima. So many of you did it. Very good, very good. So can any of you, okay, I'll ask somebody. Otherwise, if I ask any of you, nobody will answer, isn't it? So, okay, Niharika, can you switch on your mic and unmute and tell me how was it? What was your experience? Just whatever you feel. Yeah, Niharika. നല്ലായിരുന്നു എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്? Can you explain?
ഇംഗ്ലീഷിന്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്.
എന്തൊക്കെ ലിസണിങ് സ്പീച്ച് അത് പറയൊന്ന് എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെന്ന്?
അത് ഓർമ്മയില്ല.
ഓർമ്മയില്ല. ഓക്കെ, അത് എങ്ങനെ ഓർമ്മ വരണമെന്ന് കൂടി ഇന്ന് പഠിപ്പിച്ചു തരാം കേട്ടോ. ഓക്കെ, ഗുഡ്. എത്ര സ്കോർ കിട്ടി ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടോ?
50%.
50%. Okay, very good. Okay, so those who have done it, you should know your score. Okay, people who have done it, because if you have not done it, okay, please do it. It's very useful, and it's actually, I told you when I used to do the interviews for the candidates in companies and all, I used to make them do this test whenever there's a requirement of a content writer or a web developer or a web content developer. Such kind of a vacancy is there. I used to conduct this step test to these candidates, and people who score well only were taken to the next level of interview. Yesterday I told you about this interview thing, isn't it? That assessment battery test and all. So this is actually a good test for your language capability, in which your listening skills, your comprehensive power, your audio visual skills, and your speech skills are also tested in this test if you do the full test. Okay. So once you do this yourself, you will understand what are you good at and what are you not so good at. Okay. See, if you understand your strengths and weaknesses, because you are the person who will understand yourself most, and if you understand yourself properly, you will be able to perform well. So that is the idea of doing such tests, participating in such tests and assessing yourself. Okay. So today we will go to the listening skills. Today's chapter is listening skills. So I just want to ask you something. What is the difference between listening and hearing? What is the difference between listening and hearing? Anybody? Yeah. Difference between listening and hearing. Come on. Understanding. Anugrah said understanding. Okay. It's right. Can somebody amplify? Can somebody amplify? What is the difference between listening and hearing? When I say I hear you and when I listen to you, that's it. What's the difference? Anybody? Pay attention. Very good. Very good, Ashwin. Very good. Pay attention. Anybody else? Any other take? Any other view? Pay attention is very good. Okay. There is a difference between listening and hearing, isn't it? Okay. Let's go forward and let's see what is the difference. Okay. Now, can you see the slide? Listening slide? Can you see the slide? Yeah, give connection. Niharika said give connection. It's again good. Give concentration. Yes, you have to give concentration. Yes, very good. Okay, now coming to the first slide of our listening. Okay, listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. When you hear, hearing is a physiological or a neurophysiological process. What is hearing? Hearing is basically some sound waves will create a movement in your tympanum, your eardrum. And that eardrum, actually those vibrations are transferred neurologically to your brain, and your brain is hearing the voice or noise. Okay, so you can hear the sound of crackers. You can hear the sound of automobiles. You can hear the sound of rockets. You can hear of planes. You can hear of a horn. You can hear the sound of somebody talking also. So that means you can hear the sound. Okay, now if somebody is speaking in say French or Spanish and you are hearing it, but are you listening to it? You cannot very well say you are listening to it because you are not able to make out what he is speaking. You are hearing his sound, but you are not making a meaning out of it. Okay, so that's the difference between hearing and listening. Okay, somebody is telling if you are listening a poetry, listening to speech in the language you are actually understanding the meaning. But whereas you are just hearing with your ear, you are hearing the sound, you may not understand the meaning. So it may be a noise kind of a sound with meaningless sound, or even a meaningful sound which is spoken in a different language which you don't understand. So the sound which is spoken has perfect meaning in that language. Unfortunately, you don't know that language. So what happens? You won't understand. You hear it, you don't listen to it, isn't it? So listening is the key to effective communication. Without the ability to listen effectively, messages are easily misunderstood. Okay, so there was a story. പണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ സ്കൂളിൽ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ കുട്ടികൾ പറയുന്നൊരു സ്റ്റോറി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഒരു തമിഴനും മലയാളിയും സംസാരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ അവിടത്തേക്ക് പെട്ടെന്ന് ഒരു പാമ്പ് വന്നു. അപ്പൊ തമിഴൻ പറഞ്ഞു, ഇൻഫാക്ട് നമ്മുടെ സിനിമാ നടൻ വിനീതിനെ അറിയോ സിനിമാ നടൻ വിനീത്, തലശ്ശേരിയുള്ള വിനീതിനെ അറിയോ? ഓക്കെ, വിനീത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്കൂളിൽ പഠിച്ച എന്റെ സീനിയറായിട്ട് പഠിച്ചതായിരുന്നു. അപ്പൊ വിനീത് ഒരു മിമിക്രിയിൽ കാണിച്ചതായിരുന്നു ഇത്. അപ്പൊ ഒരു തമിഴനും മലയാളി ഇരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ പിന്നെ അവിടെ ഒരു പാമ്പ് വന്നു. അപ്പം മലയാളി പറഞ്ഞു തമിഴനോട് ആ പാമ്പ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. തമിഴൻ പറഞ്ഞു ആമ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പൊ ഇവൻ പറഞ്ഞു ആമയല്ലേ പാമ്പ്. അപ്പൊ ഇവൻ പറഞ്ഞു അല്ലല്ല ആമ. തമിഴൻ പറഞ്ഞു ആമ ഇൻ തമിഴ് മീൻസ് യെസ് ഇല്ലേ? ആമ മീൻസ് യെസ്. സോ അവൻ പറയുന്നത് പാമ്പുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ തമിഴൻ പറഞ്ഞു യെസ് എന്ന് പറയണം. പക്ഷെ ഇവൻ വിചാരിച്ചു അവൻ പാമ്പല്ല ആമയാണെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അവൻ പറയടാ ആമക്ക് 4 കാലും പിന്നെ തലയും ഒരു തോടൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, ഇത് പാമ്പാണ് നീളത്തുള്ളത്. അപ്പൊ തമിഴൻ പറയുന്നത് ആമ. അപ്പൊ അവൻ പറയുന്നത് ഞാൻ എന്ത് പറഞ്ഞാലും നിനക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവില്ല, ആമ നീ പറഞ്ഞോണ്ട് ഇത് പാമ്പാടെ ആമയല്ല എന്ന് തമിഴൻ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. So this is the difference between listening and hearing. Okay, so because he understood, when he said it's a snake, he understood, but when he was responding in his own language, the other guy is not understanding. So this is how the misunderstanding takes place. Okay, so listening is one of the most important skills you can have. It's a very important kind of a skill, an active process of getting information and ideas. And listening is the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken words. When somebody speaks a word or a sentence, you have to actually receive it with your ear, process it in your brain, construct a meaning out of it. When that guy said ama, he thought it is a tortoise, isn't it? But in his language, it is yes sir, or amanga they say. Okay, so this is the process of listening. So listening is not just about being quiet while somebody else is speaking. Somebody is sleeping quietly, somebody is sitting quietly and looking at the chap doesn't mean he's listening. His mind may be wandering. So he may be hearing the sound, but he may not be listening properly. Now, hearing with the senses, you have to hear with all the senses, not only with your ear. You have to hear. And listening is conscious. So when you hear, you are using your senses, and when you are listening, you are using a brain. Okay, help to improve our interpersonal and oral exchange. Listening will always help to improve our interpersonal and verbal exchange between people. Just listening to words is not enough. A good listener has to pay attention to the non-verbal communication of the speaker. So when somebody is speaking, when you are listening, if you are a good listener, you have to make eye contact, you have to see his expression, you have to see his facial expression, you have to see his body language, everything you have to see. Okay. Now you must have seen in movies and all when police is confronting somebody. Okay. And see how the people are acting when the police is confronting like a criminal. So how do the police know that he is a criminal? Through non-verbal language, he is actually conveying it. Otherwise, if a police is checking for something, he checks, okay, you go, you stand there. Why police is stopping that particular person? And 99.9% he will be a criminal, or he will be the guy who is looking for by the police. Okay. So they give a lot of non-verbal clues that they are doing something wrong, isn't it? In the airport and all, they catch a lot of people. You see, in every plane, hundreds of people are boarding, and they are coming from every plane. Now, how is this? The officers log on to the guy who is actually doing something jiggery pooggery, because he is actually giving that feeler to the officers that he is doing something wrong. See, many times, many of us would have gone in airplanes many times. Hardly any time they check your entire luggage and all, but sometimes they log on to some people. They just hook on to some people and start checking everything of those people, because they get a non-verbal communication that these people are doing something wrong. So this non-verbal communication is also a very important part of listening. So if the officers are listening, sir, are you taking any bad item? You said no. The other guy also said no. But he told the other guy, okay, you go inside the room for inspection. Okay, then when they check the baggage, they'll find something wrong, which is not supposed to be taken in the aeroplane. How? Because when they asked the question, verbally they said no, non-verbally they said, yes, I am taking a contraband item or a item which is not supposed to be taken in a plane. So non-verbal communication is very important, not only to you, but to all the detective agencies and security agencies and people in all walks of life. If you go to a shop, okay, shopkeeper will know whether you will actually purchase the item or not. From your body language, he will understand whether you will purchase the item or not. There is a famous, joke. It's not actually a joke. It happens actually. So once you in North India, once you go to a shop, there will be small tea shops outside in the street. That trailer-based, trolley-based tea shops and all. So the moment the manager or the owner, sitting there, Banya sitting there, he reads from your body language that you are you may purchase something. So he get an indication that you are actually interested in purchasing. He'll shout outside to the tea shop, "Hey, saab ke liye do chai lena. Bring two cups of tea for these people." Okay. So that means he now feels that he has got a feeler that you are going to purchase from him, and he actually want to engage you by giving you a cup of tea. Then you will sit there and have tea, talk to him. You will get more and more engaged there, and your chance of purchasing item from that shop is much more. So this non-verbal languages are a technique which is used by not only the educated academic people, but even the normal store owners or shopkeepers or even brokers. Okay, so this is a very important aspect of listening. Now coming to the process of listening. How is the process of listening? What is the process of listening? So process of listening involves receiving the communication. How will you receive? Through ears, isn't it? You will hear what the other guy is saying, and you will understand. And receiving has ears as well as non-verbal communication also. You have to understand. For that, you have to use the brain. You have to remember that what you are understanding, and you have to evaluate what you actually got from that communication. Then you have to give a feedback. Okay, feedback is a very, very important part in any kind of communication. Feedback carries a very great part in any kind of communication. So feedback is actually helping the communicator or the guy who is speaking to make corrections to his communication so that the listeners understand it even in a better fashion. Okay. So receiving, understanding, remembering, evaluating, and feedback. So these are the 5 stages in the process of listening. I'll say once more. Receiving is receiving that verbal and non-verbal communication from your sender or the guy who is communicating. And understanding is using your brain to decipher in the language you understand. See, what is happening is when you are understanding, like I told you, it's a dissimilar language, or if he's using some different words than understanding will suffer, because Understanding is basically when you are comparing what you receive from with the already existing template in your brain. You already know this language is a template, right? Language is a template. When I say something, these words are already embedded in your brain. So you are taking those words, templated words, and then you are mixing them and making meaning out of it, isn't it? So what I convey is only sound. When I say sound, you only get the sound of the word sound, but your brain already knows what sound means. So it will take it from the reservoir and it will start joining to make a meaning out of it. Then you remember what you speak, then you evaluate. After remembering, you have to actually understand and evaluate and see what exactly you spoke. Then only you can give a feedback. Okay, if I ask you a question, you have to first go through all these stages, evaluate what he asked, then your brain will find out an answer for that, and then the answer will be given as a feedback. So this is the process of listening. I hope you are with me till now. Do you understand till now? Anybody any problem in understanding till now? You understand the process of listening? Can you give a feedback, please? The feedback is the most important part in listening. So did you understand till now? Come on, waiting for your reply. Yeah, good. Agarsh, thank you. Anurag, thank you. So basically, you received what I said, you understood what I said, you remembered, you try to remember it, and you evaluated my question and you gave me a feedback that you have understood till now. So this is the process again explained, isn't it? Thank you. Okay, now we go to the receiving part. We'll understand all these parts individually. What is receiving? Receiving is basically intentional focus on hearing a speaker's message. I am speaking to you. You are making an intentional focus on my speech so that you listen it, isn't it? You are hearing my sound. But if you are reading something else when I am speaking, or you are doing some WhatsApp or something when I am speaking, you will not listen to me. You will hear me nevertheless, but you will not listen to me. You will hear my sound, but you will not listen to me because your brain is elsewhere. Your eardrums are vibrating, but your brain is not interested. It is not understanding what I'm saying, isn't it? So if you have intentional focus on hearing, then you will start understanding the meaning of what I say. This stage is represented by the ear because it is the primary tool involved with the stage in the listening process. So receiving, your ear is the primary tool. You have to actually focus your ear, just like you focus an antenna for transmission. You have to focus your ear towards the communication. Now, understanding is learning the meaning of the message, which is not always easy. For understanding, you have to have the templated words in your vocabulary stored in your brain. Otherwise, if I start speaking in English or in Spanish or German or something, you may not understand because that is not stored in your brain. English words are stored in your brain. Malayalam words are stored in your brain. So if I speak in a language which you understand, your brain will decipher it and take meanings out of it. Now, deciding what the message means to you is basically understanding. That's a brain function. Now, remembering begins with listening. So if you want to remember something, first you have to listen. And if you can remember something that was said, you might not have been listening effectively. So if you are not remembering something, that means you are not listening. You know why in a class all students don't get the same mark? I'm very sure all of you you are all same age, almost same background, same capability, and your brain power is same. There are exactly the same number of brain cells in all your brains. Now, why some of you or some of the students score high marks, whereas some of the students score very low marks? Because of this factor, because they don't listen properly. They got the capability. Now listen, you have to do consciously. Okay, listening is a process which you have to do consciously. If you do listen consciously, then you can have better understanding, better remembrance, and better evaluation. You can give better answer in your answer sheets, isn't it? So you should be very attentive till the end of this class, because I am going to give you so many tips which is going to be helpful to you. Now, even when you're listening attentively, some messages are more difficult than others to understand and remember. Okay, when I'm telling you, suppose I'm taking a technical class, something you will understand, something you will not understand. Okay, then if you give me a feedback that sir, I didn't understand, I can tell it again, isn't it? So highly complex messages that are filled with details call for highly developed listening skills. So if I am teaching you a complex derivation or mathematics or something like that, okay, so if the message is complex, you need more skills in listening. So listening is not just like, hearing. Let me tell you, I am teaching you this, art of listening today. Okay. I just, get some laborers who are not educated, some Bengalis who are working in the field. Suppose I make them sit in the class too. Okay. Will they understand? Definitely they will not understand, because Bengalis may not understand this kind of English. Okay. Even I'll make a, your young sister or brother who is in maybe third or fourth standard sit in this class. He will understand English, but will he understand the meaning of the message I'm telling? Because he is not matured enough to understand the meaning of what I'm telling now, isn't it? Even though he understands English, he cannot understand the meaning. Okay. So there are different gradations of listening. So it all depends. Your understanding and your ability will solely depend on how you listen. Okay. And your capability to listen. Now, evaluating. The fourth stage of listening process is evaluation. Evaluation of the same message can be very widely from one listener to other. See, suppose your young brother or sister is sitting there here, and your grandfather is sitting in the same class. Okay, I am explaining this paragraph. Will your grandfather, you, and your young brother or sister, will they be understanding the same thing? Because I am speaking the same thing, but will the understanding of these people will be the same? No, it will be totally different. Okay, so when you evaluate, the stage 2, 3, and 4 are represented by the brain, because of the primary tone involved with these stages are listening process. So everybody hears with their ear, but understanding, remembering, and evaluation can be done by a brain, and a brain trained in that, isn't it? If I am telling your fourth standard sister or brother about engineering, he can understand what I say. He can listen to what I say, but he cannot take any meaning out of it. Okay, so he cannot evaluate it. He can listen, he can receive, he can understand some words, but he will not understand the technology or meaning. He will not be able to remember, he will not be able to evaluate. Now responding comes after all these 4 stages. Okay, sometimes responding is referred to as feedback, and it is the 5th and final stage of listening process. So one, you receive, you understand, you remember, you evaluate, and then you respond. Okay, so your reaction to message, it can be emotional and intellectual. So you must have seen in some interviews and all, in TV and all, somebody is asking a question. Okay, the anchor is asking a question. Now one guy is responding very totally volatilely, and he's totally volatile. He's become so aggressive. He says, how can you say that? This is not good. This is against me. This is against my people. So something he'll say. The other guy will listen and he'll coolly answer, what you said is logically not correct. And, and as per this, the facts are this. The book says this. This is the reality. And he says very logical. So there are 2 ways of, making, responding to a, communication. So it can be totally emotional, totally volatile, or it can be very cool and totally intellectual. So there is a whole range of spectrum between emotional and intellectual responses. Sometimes it may be 50% intellectual, 50% emotional. He'll get a bit of emotional also, but he actually analyzes it intellectually and gives a feedback. Okay. So if you are giving a positive feedback to your instructor, at the end of the class, you stay behind and finish the sentence in your notes, or approach the instructor to ask for clarification. So if I stop this class, I say, okay, this class is over, thank you very much. So suddenly you'll find so many people exiting, tuck, people exiting. Some people stay behind and say, sir, thank you for a nice class. Some people say, sir, I didn't understand this part, can you explain it once more? So if you are sitting in a class and teacher says, okay, class is over, so some of you will go to the teacher and say, I didn't understand this, can you explain this, please? And some of you will just pick up your book and just go outside. Okay, so there are different kinds of gradations, but what the teachers understand, the speaker understand, is that the people who are just going out, even without saying anything, even without acknowledging, they were not interested. Probably they were not listening. They heard everything, they have not listened to it. So if they are not listened to it, that means they will not understand it. They will not be able to perform properly in the examination. Okay, people who stayed behind and gave a feedback in the form of even a nod or a eye contact or a thank you note or a thank you or asking some doubts, they were the people actually who were attending the complete lecture properly or listened to the lecture properly, isn't it? Thus, this stage is represented by the lips, because we often give feedback in the form of verbal feedback. However, you can just as easily respond non-verbally, isn't it? You can see when suppose I'm taking a class in your classroom, you are looking at me. Okay, when you are listening and I'm telling you, okay, I explained something, I said, I asked, understood, and some of you make a movement with your head, nod with your head, some of you just make a movement with your eyes, okay, then I get a non-verbal feedback that okay, these people are understanding. And some of you are just blankly looking at me, so I understand that they are looking through and through, they are not seeing me, they may be hearing my voice, but they may not be mentally present there, and they must be in some fantasy world of their own while they are looking at me. That's possible, isn't it? So responding is also a very important part in communication. So when you respond, as a listener, when the listener responds, the speaker gets an impression that the listener is responding, and they get into a kind of relationship, the communication relationship, and they understand each other, and effectiveness of communication will be much more. So this is basically the process of communication, process of listening. I take it that all of you got it properly. Okay. Now we go to the next part. What is the importance of listening? You see in the cartoon that boss is asking, why everyone likes you? What is the secret? Okay, why you get along with everybody? So he says, nobody hates a listener. If you are a good listener, okay, if you are a good listener, people will like you, because everybody wants a good listener. Everybody is very willing to speak, but everybody wants a good listener. So we show that we are serious. When you are a good listener, when you listen very empathetically, when you are listening very carefully, the other party feels that you are very serious. Just imagine when your parents or your siblings, when somebody in your family is talking to you, and you are looking at the WhatsApp and doing something, half listening, half not listening. What will happen then? Suppose your mother or father are talking to you, then after some time your mother or father will feel that okay, he or she is not listening to me, why am I wasting my time? And slowly if it repeatedly if it happens, the relationship is affected. Okay, so listening is very important in a relationship. Maybe a relationship between a teacher and a student, between parents and children, between siblings, between friends, everywhere listening is very important. And if you are a bad listener, you tend to actually spoil the relationship with the other people. Okay, so through listening we know that we are very serious, and we display respect to others' point of view. Listening carefully is a sign of respecting. If a teacher is taking a class and some students are intently listening, and they are making eye contact and listening every word and giving positive notes and everything, and some student is writing something, scribbling something in his notepad, or under the desk he is looking in the mobile phone and sending WhatsApp messages, or is looking through the window outside, or is looking at something else, or looking at the ceiling or fan, that not only means that he is not interested, that is a plain disrespect to the guy who is actually speaking, isn't it? That's a plain disrespect. So again, it will spoil relations, and you will lose whatever you are actually trying to learn. And listening helps us to learn, and listening helps us to adapt and understand. Okay, listening helps us to adapt and understand to some situations. And no, you can actually shut your mouth, you can shut your eyes, but can you shut your ears? Then you have to put your fingers into your ears. Okay, there is no natural mechanism to shut your ears. So that means the nature actually wants us to listen to everything, because listening was a very important part in our survival when our ancestors were actually fighting with animals inside a jungle, inside a cave. They were living as primitives, the missing link between man and the ape, what they say. So when the mankind was very primitive, listening, they were living with the animals, other animals, and struggling for survival. Listening was a very great tool. It was a very important tool. And even today, is listening any less important tool? No, it is not any less important tool. When the mankind evolved, in the beginning there were no way to actually write things down. So what they did, they made everything into verses, slokas and poetry and verses, and they used to sing this and say this and remember this. All scriptures were basically remembered as smriti. What they call shruti and smriti. They what you hear and what you remember. Shruti means what you hear, smriti means what you remember. Okay, so they tell students, they teach students by reciting it again and again and again, and students remember it by reciting it again and again and again. That was how knowledge was transferred. After that, the books came, and now we are back into the audio visual age. Now we have got videos and audios and podcasts and YouTube videos, everything to learn. So again, we are into, we don't have to read now, isn't it? We don't have to read. We have got so many verbal communication and listening has again become very important. In the age of books, in the golden age of books, people hardly used to talk, talk and listen, because reading was very fast and people tend to read. In my childhood and all, we are all avid readers. We hardly listen to these kind of things because opportunity of listening is very less. So we were great readers. Okay. Now, because of the social media, the audio video revolution, now you have again become listeners and visualizers, isn't it? Now, can anybody tell me the difference between sympathy and empathy, or what is sympathy, what is empathy? Can anybody tell me sympathy and empathy? What are these? What are these? Is there a difference? Anybody? Anybody? What is sympathy? What is empathy? What is the difference? Whatever you feel like, you say, okay, because I want this feedback. Come on. Waiting for your response. What is sympathy? What is empathy? Is there any difference between sympathy and whatever you know, you tell me. Okay. Don't make long sentences. What is sympathy? Any question you can answer. What is sympathy? What is empathy? What is the difference between empathy and sympathy? Whichever question you feel like, you can answer. Okay, I'm waiting. Yeah, where are our A students? Ashwin, Adarsh, Anugrah, Anurag, where are you? Niharika. Come on, I'm waiting for an answer. Yeah, Anurag said sympathy is feeling, empathy is doing. Good answer, Anurag. Good attempt, and you got a lot of correct things in this. But I'll amplify it some more. Anybody else? Thank you, Anurag. Very good feedback. Anybody else? Okay. Sympathy is feeling, what Anurag said is slightly okay, because see when somebody is talking to you and he or she says, I undergone through so much of problems, and I underwent through so much of troubles, and you start feeling sympathy for them. Sahadabam, namala Malayalathu parayunna pole sahadabam. Okay, so you start feeling like sympathy for them. Oh, kashtamai poi ille, pavam ഒരുപാട് കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു, നമുക്കൊരു വിഷമം തോന്നും, അപ്പോൾ നമുക്കൊരു അവരോടൊരു സിമ്പതി തോന്നും, സഹതാപം തോന്നും. That's sympathy. Sometimes when somebody is saying something, you feel like you are in his shoes. Okay, then you start crying. Tears will come from your eyes. You feel bad. You feel the exact feeling of that other person. Okay, that is called empathy. You put yourself in the shoes of that person. That is called empathy. You feel exactly like he felt when he was describing that incident. Once you see some movies and all, very sentimental movies and all, people start crying like anything, because people start feeling like the hero or heroine of that movie who actually underwent through that bad situation. Okay, that is called empathy. So when you empathize with others, you start feeling his same feeling, and your communication is maximum when you empathize. I'll in the last 15th August, I was telling the other batch also, last 15th August, I was giving a class to engineering college in Trivandrum. So they actually wanted me to talk about army life and some of the experiences in the army. So I started telling them of various situations and in which I underwent, and they were giving me so much of feedback. Sir, what happened after that? And some of them wanted to ask me questions, unmuting the mic. They said, sir, can we unmute the mic and ask you a question? There are almost 95 plus students in that, and the entire, I think it went up to 2 to 3 hours, and the entire time, people kept asking me questions, and they started giving remarks and everything. It was such a lively session, because then I realized that at some point when I started telling my stories, at some point they started empathizing with me. They started empathizing with me, and they started putting themselves in the shoes I was in the incident I was mentioning. And then they started feeling the difference between the speaker and the listener actually vanishes, and the listener feels that he is only the speaker and he is undergoing through all those things. That is called empathizing. So once you empathize, communication is at its maximum. Okay, when you empathize with others, communication is at its maximum. Now I'll ask a small question. Okay, see, I have prepared this class today. So for this class today, how many hours I would have spent preparing for your class of 90 minutes today? Anybody, can anybody give any idea? Any guess? How many hours would I have prepared for this 90-minute class? Let's have a guess from you. Let's have a guess from you. Come on. Some answer. 5 hours. Anurag say 5 hours. Long but not sufficient. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody? Can anybody respond? How many hours do you think I would have, actually spent preparing this lecture of 90 minutes? Anugrah says 2 to 3 hours. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. So I'll tell you, see, I would have spent almost 5 to 6 days, maybe 1 to 2 hours a day to prepare this single lecture. Because, if you give me a blank slide also, I can speak about communication and I can speak out the importance of listening, because I am adapting the subject. I have done a lot of this thing. But to tell you, to teach you without losing any point is an effort. Okay. So for that, you have to read, you have to ensure that you are not missing out on any point. You have to ensure that you are covering every point. You have to ensure that you are putting the slides in a very logical fashion. Even if you are an expert in the subject, still you need some time for preparation. Still you need sufficient time for preparation. So just imagine a teacher teaching you an engineering subject, a technical subject in a class for 45 minutes, would have putting in 2 to 3 hours at least, to prepare for that subject. Okay. Making notes and making slides, sometimes making videos, making questions, making the assignment notes and everything. Okay. So if you empathize with that teacher, okay, for teaching 45 minutes, that teacher is actually spending 2 to 3 hours of his or her time. And if you empathize with that teacher, you can understand the kind of efforts the teacher is putting in to make you all understand and to conduct a class in a very good fashion. Okay. So if you empathize, if you have that kind of empathy, you will become a good listener, isn't it? So if you empathize, you can become a good listener. And if you are a good listener, you can absorb the maximum the teacher is teaching you, and you can actually come to the level the teacher is expecting you. So empathy between a student and a teacher is very important, and it's a very important point of listening. So you have to avoid communication errors. Okay. So to avoid communication errors, you have to be in the same platform. Help to learn something new. So listening helps to learn something new, and listening is the key to your success. See, yesterday I told you about the interpersonal communication. Okay, your technical ability will help you 10% to grow up in life, whereas your communicative ability, your interpersonal ability, including listening, will help you 90%. Okay, the contributing factor, 90% factor which contributes 90% in your success will be your interpersonal and communication abilities. Now, going forward, basic types of listening. Okay. Now, the basic type of listening, I'm now introducing you to the basic type of listening. There are 4 basic types: active, selective, emphatic, and ignoring. Okay. Active listening is when you understand all things, when you want to understand everything which is being taught. So in a class, you have to be an active listener, and you have to have a proper interaction with the speaker. Okay. That may be verbal interaction, non-verbal interaction. When somebody is teaching in a class, you can interact by even nodding. Okay, I understood. So without disturbing anything, and teacher is also seeing most of the students nodding. So teacher also knows that, okay, the students are understanding what I'm going to convey, or the speaker is understanding that. Okay. And proper feedback. You can say again, feedback can be in the form of interaction, or in the form of a non-verbal or verbal cue. Okay. So when you are listening to any kind of speech in an active scenario, like a classroom lecture, or speaking event or anything, you have to actually maintain eye contact, maintain proper interaction, and give proper feedback to the speaker. It can be verbal or non-verbal. Okay. Now, selective listening is another form of listening. Selective listening is when you listen to the only a selective portion, and you remember only part of what is totally spoken. And it is because the topic may not be to your liking. Okay, topic may not be to liking. So you listen to some your attention waivers, and then you don't listen for some time, and then you listen something more. So you remember bits and pieces of what has been taught. In active listening, you understand the complete thing which is supposed to be conveyed. In selective listening, you remember only the bits and pieces of what is being taught. Okay. Now, in emphatic listening, when you listen emphatically, We go beyond and seek truer understanding of how the feeling is there. Okay, so you evoke the empathy, and when you have got the empathy with the speaker, you understand, you go beyond every level, and you seek the true meaning of what is being taught by that person, okay, or spoken by that person. It requires excellent discrimination and close attention to the nuances of emotional signals, because empathy is related with emotions. Okay, empathy happens when you are emotionally, you are in the shoes of the other person, and you start feeling exactly like what the other person feels. So when you feel that way, you have a resonance with that person, and you absorb maximum. Empathy is the best form of, empathetic listening is the best form of listening. When we are being truly empathetic, we actually feel what we are feeling. Okay, we actually feel what they are feeling. So when the whatever speaker is feeling, we actually feel the same thing. If somebody is telling you his or her story, very tragic, sad story, you start crying. That means you are feeling empathy with that person. Okay, when a teacher is teaching and you absorb fully, you can absorb fully if you feel if you fully empathize with the teacher or the speaker. Okay, so these are the basic types of listening. Now coming to the barriers of effective listening. The barrier of effective listening is, firstly, the language itself. In the cartoon, you see a dog speaking a different language, cat speaking a different language. They will never be able to understand each other, isn't it? So until and unless the cat is taught the dog language and dog is taught the cat language. So language is a great barrier in listening. Like I told about I was telling you about the Tamilian and Malayali speaking the snake and the tortoise. Okay, so one is prejudgment about the speaker. If you think in your mind that what can I learn from him, this guy is idiot, what will he teach me? Okay, then you cannot understand. Then it's a barrier to effective listening. Then you cannot effectively listen. If you assume that the speaker is going to give some unimportant information, okay, so if you have a judgment against the speaker, oh, that's a stupid guy, or what can he teach me, he's telling me or irrelevant things, why should I listen to him? Then there is a barrier. You will not have effective listening. Arriving late for a speech, presentation, or lecture. If you go to a class late, some time is already gone and you didn't catch the beginning. So now you keep wondering what the teacher is or speaker is talking about for the rest of the period, because you actually lose some important part, and either it takes too much of time to get into the grid of what he or she is saying, or you miss the point totally. You will miss the point. Okay, so you have to come to the lecture or class or anything from the beginning. The moment you are late, you are losing out on effective listening, and you are losing out on the knowledge which is transferred to you. Judging the speaker by his her mannerism, voice, appearance, and accent, etc. Okay, sometimes we will find very knowledgeable people like our Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the genius people. Okay, they'll speak very normal English, not Sachi Tharoor English, but very normal English, and he speaks with an accent, Tamilian accent, and he speaks in a very unimpressive way. But the meaning which we convey is tremendous. The knowledge which he has got is tremendous. Okay, but if you judge him by his accent or his speaking or something, then you will not listen to him. That will become a barrier. But that he was the president of India and he was one of the greatest persons ever lived on this earth. Then you listen to him whatever he is speaking, and then you start empathizing, and you will get the full benefits of his speech. Okay, lack of concentration, interest. If you don't concentrate, if you don't show interest, then it's a barrier to effective listening. You will not listen properly. Avoiding listening to difficult, boring, or complex information, selectively listening only to what is considered interesting. So in a class, if a teacher is taking a class, okay, teacher is teaching you some theorem. For that, teacher tells you some example, okay, very very humorous examples. So you tend to remember the humor, but then you tend to skip the difficult part. So all of us have got a tendency to listen to the easy and appealing part, and actually leaving out the difficult and boring part. So that's again a barrier to effective listening. Now, speaker or listener being distracted by disturbances. If there is a disturbance, okay, yesterday's class, you remember the first class, day before, there was a power outage at my place, and there was a net outage. So much of issues on the first day. So even I was not getting that kind of empathy or that kind of a feeling. I am very sure you must have also got disturbed. Okay, so speaker or listener, if they are distracted by disturbances, then it's a barrier to effective listening. The communication of ideas will be not that effective. Okay, now how will you listen effectively? In the cartoon, you see these two characters. Do you ever hear the word I say? Other one is says only the ones I like. So we all tend to listen to what we like. Okay, that is our basic, characteristic. So we tend to actually avoid what we don't like, or what we perceive as boring, or what we perceive as not useful, or what we perceive as irrelevant. So if you want to listen effectively, stop talking, be silent. Stop talking. How will you stop talking? Shutting your mouth is not enough. You have to actually stop talking mentally also, isn't it? We all mentally talk, isn't it? Are they right? We always talk mentally. We always have a conversation going on mentally. So if you want to actually listen, you have to actually calm that mental conversation also. Okay, and you have to show interest in what is being spoken or what is being taught. If you don't have interest in what is being spoken, then you will not listen properly. You will not listen effectively. You have to empathize. I told you about empathizing. You have to be in the other people, other person's shoe, and try to understand from his point of view. Then you listen very effectively. You ask questions. Take clarifications. If there is a doubt, you ask questions. You take clarifications, so you can listen effectively. Maintain eye contact. Very important in this kind of a scenario. We cannot maintain eye contact, but you can actually maintain eye contact in a normal one-to-one class. Take notes were required. See, you tend to forget so many things. So especially when you are listening to a technical lecture or a class or something, jot down notes. Okay, I'll tell you a very interesting technique here, which I used to use when I was in school. Okay, I generally spent too less time with my school books, because I was a member in the library, and I was always in the library reading other books, anything other than my curriculum. But I spent very less time in my with my school books that time. So what I used to do is I actually take notes, and when I take notes, I take very short notes, and I developed a technique, or when I look at the notes, I try to remember what exactly my teacher taught in the class that time. I try to visualize. Okay, so in the class I take some notes, and when I get this point, I start visualizing in my class. I am sitting there and I'm watching my teacher, and teacher is speaking this. So I try to associate that mental image with this note, so I never forget that mental image. So when there is an exam, when there is a question, I look at the question, and I try to remember how my teacher taught me in the class that question or that answer. Okay, then everything will come in front of my eyes like a YouTube video. I can see the teacher talking, and the voice comes in my head, and then I can write the answer. Okay, so I used to use this technique. So this is called a visualization technique. And after so many years, after learning all this training and everything, and getting certified in so many things, I understood that this was a very great technique. But that time in my 10th class, 8th class, 7th class, and all, I used to use this technique, even without knowing that it was a great remembering technique. So taking short notes when you are attending a lecture, and then in the evening, when you revise, reading that note and then connecting it to the visualization of the actual teacher taking that class is a very good remembrance tool. And then during the examinations and all, you can actually remember how the teacher was teaching the class and visualize it, and then you can give the answer. Okay, now put your entirety. Okay, when you want to listen, put your heart and soul into listening. You have to absorb what is being taught, like just like a sponge absorbing water. Okay, your entire body and soul should be actually absorbing what the other is trying to convey. I'll give an example. Okay, I'll tell you a small story. In times of olden times, some people went to a Buddhist monk in Japan. Okay, in Japan, there is a word called satori in Japanese. Satori is equal to what we say moksha, or what you call that nirvana or something. What we say in our language, moksham, nirvanam, peace. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു സംഭവമാണ് satori. That is the stage of attaining oneness with the universal truth. Okay, attaining oneness and achieving ultimate peace. That's called satori. So two people went to a Buddhist guru to seek satori. They want satori, they want moksha. So they wanted to talk to that about the guru and become his disciple. So when they went there, the guru was having a soup. So they went and sat in front of the guru. They said, "Sir, we came to ask about satori." Okay. So guru said, "Okay, I am having my soup." So after some time, and guru kept having his soup. After some time, again they asked, "Sir, we came to ask about satori." Guru said, "I am having my soup. Why don't you also have soup?" So guru told another student to give them soup. So they gave soup. So now three of them are drinking soup. Okay, they are taking soup. So again, one of the master, we came actually to talk to you about Satori. Guru said, I am having my soup. So both of them said, we are also having our soup. Guru said, wrong. I am having my soup. You are having your soup, thinking about Satori. Okay. So the point is, when you are doing something, you have to put your entirety into that thing. You have to focus completely. So Guru was having a soup. He doesn't want to talk when he was having a soup because he was actually focusing in the soup. He was actually enjoying the soup, its flavor, its temperature, its smell, everything, its taste. He was enjoying the soup, fully focusing on the soup. But the students, the visitors, they were actually thinking about Satori. They were having soup without enjoying the soup. They were thinking about Satori without focusing on Satori also. Okay. So the story is, when you want to listen effectively, put your entirety into the listening. Okay. Be like a sponge, absorb everything. Now send feedback, give feedback to the speaker. Then he can effectively deliver the content when he gets a feedback. Avoid or eliminate distraction. Avoid all kinds of distractions or eliminate all kinds of distractions. Try to gather information about the topic to develop interest and familiarity. Okay, here I'll tell you something. If you got the information about the topic which is going to be discussed, you will develop interest and then you will have familiarity. Okay, yesterday I told you to do the test, because if those people who have done the test, actually they have actually done the test, they will find this class, they can relate to this class, they can understand whatever I am talking today in a much better fashion. They will understand it fully, just like a sponge. They will soak it all, isn't it? So it is very essential to actually do something about the thing you are going to learn or you are going to listen. So I'm telling you, I'll tell you one more exercise. Okay, Monday there is a class, you got the timetable and schedule, so you know what is going to be taught on Monday. So just try, you just see the chapter, see the topic you are going to be taught Monday, get your textbook or reference book and just flip through it. I'm not telling you to study it, don't study. Okay, if that is about that topic which is going to be taken on Monday, just go through that for just spend 5 minutes on one subject. If there are 4 subjects, spend 20 minutes. Just flip through the book. Okay, just read the heading and just try to see certain points in that and just flip through and don't study and don't read very carefully and all. If you do it, well and good. Otherwise, just flip through it and just get a gist of it from just look at it in the book. And then you attend the class on Monday, you will find that you are relating to whatever the teacher is saying in a very better fashion. It's a very powerful technique, That is why people always say in my childhood, and my parents used to say that before going to the class, just flip through the book. Try to just see the chapter. Don't read. If you don't want to read it thoroughly or study, don't study. But just flip through and try to just give a one reading. And in the class, when the teacher is teaching it, you will find it very, very easy to understand. Okay. So try to gather information about the topic to develop interest and familiarity. You should all try this on Monday. Okay. Just try this on Monday and see the difference. And if it's helping you, you continue. Otherwise, don't continue. I'm telling you, it's going to help you. Okay. Just flip through and just read some few pages of what is being taught, what is going to be taught on Monday, and you will find a tremendous difference in understanding the subject when the teacher is actually teaching you. Now, benefits of effective listening. What are the benefits of effective listening? Firstly, if you listen effectively, it enhances your productivity. If you are an employee and if your boss tells you something, at the first attempt only you actually understand that, then you actually do the work very perfectly. Okay, then you don't have to do rework. See, in all work, ultimately we are doing more work than rework than the work, because we don't listen properly. We actually tend to do more and more work. Just because we falter listening, we do a totally different thing, or we do totally different kind of work, then we have to do rework again and again. We have to work. So if you are a good listener, you enhance productivity. So if you finish your work in time, suppose there is your office time is 5 o'clock, you listen completely, you did as per the requirement, then you can leave the office at 5 o'clock. If you make a mistake in listening, you do something else, the boss will tell you, okay, this is not the way it is supposed to be done. This is supposed to be done like this. You didn't listen properly in the first time. So please finish it before you go from office. So you will be sitting till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, isn't it? So if you are a good listener, firstly, you will understand things. If you listen properly in the class, you understand fully, and your revision you have to only spend minimum time. You can enjoy more. Okay, you can spend less time and enjoy your life more, isn't it? So similarly, in a workplace also. So if you are a good listener, if you are an effective listener, you enhance productivity and you improve relationships also. Okay. When somebody is telling you something, you empathize with him. Your father, your mother is telling you something. Your brother, your sister is telling you something. You empathize with them. You listen properly. What happens? A bond comes between your father and your mother. Okay. Your father may tell you something. See, when I was a child, like your father must be, my age or something, somewhere around. Okay. So they will tell you, see, in my childhood, it was like this. There was no computer or there was no mobile phones. We used to study like this. We used to undergo so much of trouble. Electricity was very rare, and filament bulbs were there. The bulbs used to be 40-watt filament bulbs. So there are so much of problems, and some of us actually studied in the light of a oil lamp. And there are some people in my generation who actually studied in the light of oil lamp. And and if you want to know something, you cannot just do a Google search. You have to go to the library and spend so many hours in library to find out about something. If you are given an essay or essay or a some homework, you have to go to library. You have to get the books. You have to find out where it is. You have to ask the librarian, find the books, then find out where it is in the books, see the index. Then you have to take the notes in your rough pad, then come to the house, and then you have to make that paper, isn't it? So now you people, you just say Google, you get the answer, or you say, oh Alexa, tell me this, you get the answer, isn't it? Okay. So it's so simple. You ask the Alexa, you get the answer. You search Google, you get the answer, isn't it? So when your old generation is telling you this, okay, you empathize with them. You start. I told you so many things. If you empathize with me, you really understand how difficult it was studying at my time. And if you understand how difficult it was studying at the time of my previous generation, and even though it was difficult, they did so well. So now I got so much of facilities. Why can't I do even better? And that is the time when you improve, isn't it? So when you become an effective listener, when you show empathy, it will improve your relationship with your parents, with your family, with the teachers, with your friends, with your siblings, everybody, isn't it? So effective listening is a very good part in improving relationship. Okay. Now avoid conflicts. If you are a good listener, okay, you understand fully. When you're talking to a person, there is a good mutual understanding. When there is a good mutual understanding, the conflicts are avoided. There won't be any fighting. There won't be any bickering. There won't be any conflict. So the good effective listening actually avoid conflicts. It will improve understanding, goes without saying. If you listen properly, you understand better. Okay. Improve negotiation skills. When you are talking to somebody, if you are a good listener, you catch each and every one of his points, you respond to it, and when you are responding effectively, other person is very comfortable, and the relationship also is very good, empathetic, and then that improves the negotiation skill, and it improves the negotiation results also, isn't it? It adds to your image and personality. So when you are a good listener, it will add to your image and personality. Okay. So when I was posted in Delhi, in a ministerial duty. So what happens? I had a boss. Okay. Now this boss is very, very senior guy. So I go to him with some kind of file. Now this file will be 100-page file, but my assistant will write a 2-page summary of the file. I'll read this 2-page summary and understand the case, and I'll refer some documents. Then if I have to take a decision from my boss, I used to go to my boss. Okay, I go to his office, and he is a very old man, spectacled man. He is looking at the table. He is not even looking at me when I am speaking. So referring these 2 pages of summary, I am briefing him, sir, this is the case, and this is the decision what I want. Okay. So he will just take out a cigarette and he will roll that cigarette in his hands. I never seen him smoking, but all the time there is a pack of cigarette in his office, and he will keep rotating the cigarette in both his hands while when he's listening to anybody. He's looking at the cigarette and just rotating cigarette in his hand. I am telling him something, and after I finished, I thought, this guy is stupid. He didn't listen to anything. He was just not even looking at me. But the moment I finish, he will look at me. He'll tell me, okay, Praveen, you said this thing. This is what I understood. He will summarize the entire thing I told in 10 minutes in 3 sentences. This is the background. This is the options. And this is the option you are recommending. Am I right? You see how beautifully he has, summarized everything into a capsule, isn't it? So whatever I was speaking for last 10 minutes, this gentleman has summarized in 3 sentences very logically. This is the background. and this is the options you are recommending, options you have got, and this is the option you are recommending. Am I right? I say yes, sir. You are right. And say, okay, option recommended by you are absolutely correct. So you go ahead with it. Immediately gives me the decision. Okay. So this is the benefit of listening. Now that person is a very busy person. There are so many other officers working under him, and he has to take a call in so many things. But sitting at the apex level of that organization, if that person within 10 minutes he is actually giving the solution to a problem, isn't it? Because he is a good listener. His listening skill is actually giving that capability. Okay. And in the entire directorate, everybody was very fond of this person. Everybody used to respect him. He had an image. People used to say, guys, he is good. If you go to him, he will solve all your problems. And he is respected by everybody. Okay. So that becomes a part of his personality. So when you are an effective listener, it will add to your image and personality. It will actually give a great standing to you in your organization, and everybody is going to respect you. So these are the benefit of effective listening. Now coming to the active and passive listening. Okay. So when there are two ways of listening: active and passive listening. When you are sitting in a class, it should be active listening, and when you are seeing a movie or something, it is passive. Okay, you are seeing a news broadcast, it is passive. Okay, but when you are seeing a cricket match or something, it becomes active, because you start clapping when there is a sixer. When a wicket goes, you started clapping, you start shouting. That is because you are empathizing with the player there, isn't it? Or the team there, isn't it? So in active listening, reacting while listening in order to emphasize understanding. Okay, so you are giving reactions, you are giving feedbacks to while you are listening, to emphasize the understanding. Whereas in passive, you are just listening, you are not reacting or responding. Okay, in active listening, feedbacks and questions are essential. You have to give verbal or non-verbal feedback, and you can ask questions, so that there is a relationship between the listener and the speaker is maximum. Okay. But in passive listening, when you are listening to a news broadcast or something, you don't react generally, isn't it? You just listen and leave it at it. Concentrate, understand, respond, and then remembers what was said. So while you are actively listening, you have to focus, you have to concentrate, you have to understand, you have to respond, and then you have to remember what was said. Otherwise, there is no use of listening. In a class, if you don't remember what has been taught, if you don't understand what has been taught, there is no use of listening. But in passive listening, your mind may wander. In active listening, natural or non-verbal cues like nodding and eye contact are very important. Okay, when teacher is teaching in the class, you make eye contact, you nod. The teacher also understand that, okay, people are understanding properly. But in passive listening, there may not be any cues like this. In active listening, it's used in negotiation, counseling, dispute resolution, etc. Active listening is a very important part in negotiation, counseling, or dispute resolution, because there has to be a very solid two-way communication in these things. Whereas when you are listening to news, speech, or talks, etc., it is basically passive listening. You are not interacting very much. Okay, so this is the difference between active and passive listening. So can I understand that all of you are with me till now? All of you are with me till now? So far, so good? Yes? Response, please. Yeah, Anurag said yes. Okay, only Anurag is responding nowadays. What happened? Ashwin, thank you, Ashwin. Ashwin says yes. Agar says yes. Okay, some more of you, please respond. Okay, please respond. Let us make it a two-way active listening. Okay, Anugrah said yes. Okay, let's see this actually. Ashwal says yes. Okay, so this actually gives the impression, even though we are not sitting in a classroom face to face, this kind of reaction actually gives a established connection between you and me. Niharika also responded. Okay, this actually creates a connection between you and me, and it actually makes the communication more effective. So I'm very sure the people who are responded would have been at least listening with a lot of active kind of a listening than the passive. Some people may not be able to respond because of mobile size or something, or it can happen, or keyboard issue or something. But please respond whenever you are in a class and a question is asked. All of you must respond. You must respond. Then only you will be actively involved in listening. Again, I told you earlier, in a class, if there are 30 or 50 students sitting in a class, why some score high marks and some score not so high marks and some score low marks? Not because there's any difference between a capability or a brain power. All of you are equally capable. All of you got similar brain power. Everything physiologically same. Only thing is that some of you don't listen properly. Some of you don't listen actively. That is why you score less marks. in the examination. Please take it from me. Okay. So if you actively, if you listen, you are going to score much more than you are scoring today. Okay. So please improve your active listening skills. Now coming to 3 A's of active listening. One is the attitude. Firstly, you have to have that attitude to listen. Okay. If you see, why should I listen to this class? Yeah, this is not useful. No, what should I get after I do all these things? Then your attitude, if there is not a positive attitude, then you cannot listen properly. And if you don't pay attention, if your attention is wandering, you cannot listen properly. And you have to do certain adjustments. You must be sitting uncomfortably. You must be sometimes your net connectivity must be not so good, or in a class you must be feeling so heated up because of the hot climate. You will feel a bit of uncomfort and all. So you have to adjust yourself to actively listen. There may be so many disturbances, but you have to adjust yourself so that your prime aim is to actively listen, and you have to adjust yourself. So these 3 A's of active listening is to be there. So there are so many different kinds of adjustments: verbal, non-verbal, and listening, and equipment wise or environment wise. So to listen properly, your basic aim is to have a proper active listening. You have to have full focus on that active listening. Okay. So attention is a very great important thing. So you know how attention drifts. Okay. Suppose a teacher is teaching you about Newton's law or something. Teacher says, okay, Newton discovered gravity when he saw an apple falling from the tree. Okay. So your mind says, okay, what has fallen from the tree? Apple. Okay, then you think about apple. Oh, apple is red and delicious, such a tasty thing. Last week when I went to the market, my father got this apple for me, and all of us were having this apple. It was so tasty. Then tasty gets stuck up in your mind. You say, oh, even the cake my mother made was very tasty. Then the cake gets stuck in your mind. You say, okay, in the Christmas, that cake was very good. That big cake my uncle got for the Christmas was very good. And then again, the Christmas got into that. Oh, in the last Christmas, when for that picnic, it was damn good. So from gravitational force, you are going to, apple and cake, taste and cake and Christmas and, picnic. So from the classroom teaching seriously gravitational force, your mind reaches the, picnic ground. Okay. Isn't it your mind wanders? Isn't it your mind wanders? Tell me. Don't your mind wander like this when you are attending the class? Yes or no? Doesn't your mind wander like this? From the subject which is taught by the teacher, the mind catches different cues and tuck, it goes somewhere else. Yes or no? Doesn't it wander like this? Come on, please respond. Yeah, I'm waiting response. Doesn't it wander like this? Yeah. Anurag and Ashwin and Anugrah got the answer. Yes, it happens. It happens not only with you, it happens with all of us. It happens with me also. Okay. So that is the time when you have to control your mind. You have to actually take the attention to the thing which is going on, isn't it? The moment it went to apple, you say, okay, damn the apple, come back to gravity. Okay. You have to consciously take your mind to the place where it is happening. Okay. To the lecture, to the content of the thing which is being given to you. So you have to actually put in efforts to actually maintain your attention. That is the basic idea, right? So that is the basic idea. Now, going to intensive and extensive listening. There are major two kinds of listening: intensive and extensive. So intensive listening is basically listening for a short time for a particular thing. Okay. Extensive is a long time process in which you are actually listening to a huge content. Okay. For example, I can tell you in a railway station or an airport, you are listening to announcement. So you are actually listening intensely whether your train is actually being announced. Is it coming? Is it late? So you are actually focusing on the train number and the train name, isn't it? And the timing and the delay timing and everything. You are focusing very, very sharply there. Or you are listening to cricket scores in a radio or something. So you are listening how many wickets, what is the score. Your basic focus is on that. So he may be saying so many things. That's a good cover drive and this and that from pavilion, and he came and he went to the this and whatever. So you will ignore that. You will keep listening for certain points. So that is called an intensive listening. Okay. Now, primarily focused on brief listening exercises, and it's a short, focused, intense practice. Focus mostly on form and attention to pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary rather than the overall meaning. So you are not going for the overall meaning. You are actually hearing that particular word and particular pronunciation and particular thing which is being conveyed. Okay. Now, build a groundwork for the language acquisition. When you are learning language, like the step test you did yesterday, when you try to learn a language, short intensive listening is very important. Okay, you can build on these skills over time and help listeners understand key foundation aspects of the language, so key functional aspects of the language. So short-term listening, when you're learning a new language, or when you're learning a new technology, when you're learning a new type of chapter in a new type of technical terms and all, intensive listening helps you to actually learn those words and fix that in your brain. Okay, important for the beginners and intermediate students. So when you are starting anything, when in engineering you start learning a lot of technical things in the next year. Okay, the new terms and new subjects, so it's as good as learning a new language. So you will find so many terms and so many equations and so many technical terms, so many parlances. So all these things you have to learn by intensive listening. If you miss out that hearing that thing, it will actually affect you, isn't it? Now coming to extensive listening. So yeah, extensive listening is like listening to a complete speech, at a full 2-hour speech kind of a thing or something. So basically it's a long-term activity, and it focuses on the overall meaning and not on the particular words. With extensive listening, you don't have to translate each word or focus on grammar rules. Okay, you don't have to translate each word or translate each everything. Instead, you understand. You have to have an understanding of the complete thing which is being spoken there. It helps students to understand spoken language in the real world context. See, if you are listening to the class in the technical terms, you have to have intensive listening. If you want to apply that knowledge in your project or anything, you have to have extensive listening. Okay, so it helps in transition from academic understanding to the language towards a full fluency. So it actually helps you to transition from your academic understanding of the subject to the full language efficiency, or academic, your classroom understanding of engineering to the application of engineering. Okay, from here you learn, intensive listening, you learn the terms, conditions, and all the short things, theorems, and this rule and that rule, everything. But when it comes to extensive listening, you get the overall picture of the thing you are understanding. Okay, so I hope you somehow you understood the meaning of this. Basically, what you have to remember is intensive is word focused, short term, and focused on certain words, brief. Extensive is long term, meaning centric, meaning focused, and it's a long term, understand the process and the application. Okay, this is the basic idea. Now coming to the classroom listening, again a very, very important thing. Okay, how do you listen in a classroom? Now, what is the purpose of listening in a classroom? Okay, purpose of listening in a classroom is not only to hear and understand, but to actually retain that, and also to reproduce that in the examination to pass, and also to apply that knowledge into the real life scenarios when you get a job, when you actually go to a career. Whatever you are learning today, because you are all professional students, okay, whatever you are learning today, you have to apply that in your real life. And before going to the real life, you got exams, you got to say term examinations, and model examinations and university examinations every semester, and final examinations. Okay, so you have to apply these things to your examinations first, then you pass, and then you apply in the real world scenario. Okay, so how do you do it? You receive with your ears. Okay, you receive whatever being told with your ears. You understand using your brain. For that, I told you have to have certain kind of templates in your brain to understand what the teacher speaks. To make that template, I'm telling you, I've told you this exercise. Just flip through, just scan through those pages which is going to be taught to you in the next class. So your understanding will be very, very effective. I'm telling you, it will become, your understanding will become manifold. Okay, I'm not telling you to derive or learn or read or something. I am just telling you to just scan what is going to be taught in the next class. Okay, your understanding will become exponentially higher. Evaluation is when you are taking whatever teacher is taking inside, telling you, you are taking it inside your brain, understanding and actually churning into your brain and making meanings out of it. Okay, and discerning the actual meaning out of it, and then responding actually comes from this meaning. Suppose I ask you a question, you receive the question, you understand the question, then you try to evaluate what exactly sir asked. Okay, you try to evaluate, then you decide what I should answer, and then you respond to me. Okay, and when you respond to me, you remember. This is exactly what is happening in examination. You see, receiving, understanding, evaluating, you are using the classroom. Examination is a kind of responding, isn't it? So once you understand and then you respond in a proper fashion, you start remembering these things. So you write all these examinations throughout your engineering career, engineering education. Then you go out, you remember most of these things, and you can apply it on the real world projects and scenarios, isn't it? So our entire curriculum is actually, based on this process only, isn't it? So every classroom is a micro form of this curriculum, isn't it? So when you are listening for a 40 minutes lecture, this is exactly what you are doing. In a semester, it is exactly what you are doing. In a complete engineering course, this is exactly what you are doing. In your life, this is exactly what you are doing, isn't it? So you understand the importance of this thing, what I am going to tell you. This is actually, I am telling you how to live your life, isn't it? So it all starts from the classroom listening. Okay, so please understand this: receiving, understanding, evaluating, responding, and remembering. So this is the path of classroom listening, and this is how you actually convert what you listen into your knowledge bank. So whatever is become your knowledge, it becomes like a kind of a library in your brain. Okay, whatever knowledge you get, it becomes like a kind of a library space in your brain. So whenever you want, you can retrieve it. Okay, if I am teaching you this class, without any break, I'm teaching you continuously. That means this information is coming from the knowledge library in my brain. Okay, when I say one point, I can speak around 5 minutes or 10 minutes on that point. That means this data is coming from my brain, which I have actually preserved using this technique. Earlier, when I was studying, I was teaching, I was studying, I learned this thing and I kept as a information bank in my brain. So this is what we all are going to do to actually succeed in a career or in our life. Okay. Now, next point is listening to specific information. How will you listen to a specific information? Okay. So you usually know in advance how the information will be expressed. Generally, we have an understanding that how this information is going to be expressed. One second. How this information going to be expressed. Just need a gulp of water. Okay. You usually know how in advance how this information is going to be expressed if you want to listen for a specific information. Okay, that is what I'm telling you. Once you come to a class, it should be something like that. You should be listening in this mode. Okay, you actually flip through the book and you generally have an understanding that teacher is going to teach us this. So it is impossible to know what you expect before you actually listen. So before you actually listen, you don't know what is going to be taught, but it is sensible to listen for ideas rather than specific words and phrases. So when you are listening for a specific information, it is actually sensible to listen to ideas rather than specific words. So you have to have the overall understanding of what has been told to you or what has been spoken to you. So this is how you listen for a specific information. Now you're listening to answer a question. See, most of us actually listen to answer. Okay, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I was undergoing a course when I was in army. So my best friends were two sardars. Okay, so me and these two sardars, and unlike what you know generally what is projected, sardars are very intelligent. Okay, I have a lot of sardar friends. They are very sharp, very brainy, very effective, very enthusiastic, and very great people. Okay, so these two sardars were sitting with me and studying. So we are preparing for an examination. Our course was ending, and we were preparing for a particular paper examination. So we were discussing this question paper. We made a question answer paper, and we were discussing this. So this sardar called Harjit said, okay, I will ask questions. You and other one answer. Both of you answer. So Harjit asked the first question. Okay, he read the first question. Before I could answer, the other sardar answered. Then he read the second question. Immediately, other sardar answered. Then he read half of the third question. The other sardar answered. Okay. He read only half the question, other guy answered. So this Harji said, okay, you are cheating. Okay, you have learned everything by heart. Now I will answer. I will mix up the questions. I will ask random. Okay, now I'll ask you the 26th question. And the moment he said 26th question, this Sardar answered. Okay, just imagine he answered. So I was seeing what is happening. Okay, so he actually made everything by heart. He actually even made the question number also by heart. Okay, so he was answering like this. So this is listening to answer. He's not even listening only. Even before listening, his answer is in his mind. So most of the people try to answer, like this. Even before listening fully, we try to answer. Like I told you in the interview skills class. Okay, don't answer before the interviewer stops. half the time people will jump and answer, right? They try to assume that he's going to answer this, he jump and answer, assuming that he's going to ask this. Okay, so we should not listen to answer. We should listen to first and then answer if answer is necessary. Okay, but there are certain points where you have to actually listen to answer. Suppose you are an advocate, or you are participating in a quiz competition or something, you have to answer first. Okay, and certain occasions, otherwise as a normal practice, we have to listen, absorb, and then answer. Okay, instead of really paying attention to what the other person is saying, you are already thinking about what you want to say in response. So in this listening to answer mode, even before even before paying attention, you are actually thinking what you have to actually tell the other person, isn't it? So there was a famous story. ഇല്ലേ, 4 പിള്ളേര് പിന്നെ പോകുമ്പോൾ പോലീസ് വന്നു, പോലീസിന്റെ ജീപ്പ് വന്നപ്പോൾ കലുങ്കമ്മൽ 4 കുട്ടികൾ പിള്ളേർ ഇരിക്കുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. 4 പേര് എഴുന്നേറ്റുന്ന ഒരു പരുങ്ങല്. അപ്പോൾ SI അവർ നോക്കുമ്പോഴൊക്കെ അവർ ഈ പറയുന്നു, ഞങ്ങളൊന്നും ചെയ്തില്ല സാർ, ഞങ്ങളൊന്നും ചെയ്തില്ല സാർ. അപ്പോൾ SI പറഞ്ഞു, അത് ഞാനൊന്നും ചോദിച്ചില്ലല്ലോ, നിങ്ങളൊന്നും ചെയ്തില്ലെന്നും ചോദിച്ചില്ലല്ലോ, അതെന്താ പറഞ്ഞത്? So this kind of, even before police came, they are feeling guilty and they want to answer something. Definitely they must have done something. Okay, that's why they are saying like that even before asking. So adupole avardu, we have to listen first, then we have to answer. Now listening to understand is very important thing. Firstly, you should pay attention. See, when you are listening to a class, you are listening to understand. I am telling you, whatever you listen, you should listen to understand. Even news you listen to understand. You have to make it a habit. Okay, so you have to pay full attention, like soup and satori. Either you pay attention to soup or you pay attention to satori, but pay your undivided attention to whatever thing you are paying attention to. Okay, so pay attention fully. Listen with your body. You have to actually listen with your body. What is listening with your body? Can anybody tell me what is listening with your body? How will you listen with your body? Yeah, response please. How will you listen with your body? Yeah, I am responding. How will you listen with your body? Any example, whatever comes to your mind, please write. Or you can even unmute and speak also. There is no problem. Unmute and speak also if you don't want to type. Typing is a bit difficult. Yeah, come on, I am waiting for an answer, at least from my very, very enthusiastic students. How will you listen with your body? Anything which you feel. No answer? Anugrah, no answer? Ashwin, Anurag, Niharika, Ashwal, Akarsh, Ashwin Pavitran. How will you listen with your, nodding head? Akarsh, you said right, nodding head is one example. Niharika said listen carefully. Very good, very good. Any other reaction? Any other reaction? Good. So basically, see, listening is not only with the ears. Okay, suppose you are talking to somebody, I'll take an example. Facial expressions, very good, very good. Okay, I'll tell you a very domestic example. Your father is telling you something. Okay, you are listening to him. While listening to him, you are actually looking at the mobile or looking somewhere else or looking down or not looking at him, or your body is turned somehow. Okay, that means you are not listening with the body. Okay, suppose you are speaking and your friend is listening. So when you are speaking, your friend is looking that way, this way, is looking at a glass of the tea, or is looking into his mobile and doing some messaging, reading messaging. Will you feel good? No, you will not feel good. Okay, you will feel that you are being ignored. Okay, you will feel bad, isn't it? So but just imagine when you are speaking to a friend, he turns towards you. Okay, he nods, he looks into your eyes. Okay, he said, oh adeyo, like we asked in Malayalam, oh adeyo, anganeyo, adeyo. Okay, he gives us positive cues. ഇല്ലേ, നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ പൊതുവെ കേരളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നില്ലേ, നമ്മൾ കേൾക്കുന്നതിന് ഇൻഡിക്കേഷൻ ആണ്. നമ്മൾ എന്തൊക്കെ പറയുമ്പോൾ എന്നൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ആക്കുന്നില്ലേ, അങ്ങനെ പോസിറ്റീവ് ക്യൂസ് ഒക്കെ തരികയാണെങ്കിൽ, so that will be he's putting his entire body into listening, isn't it? Sometimes you, അതെയോ, തലകുലുക്കുന്നു, ശരീരം നിങ്ങളുടെ നേരെ തിരിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, പിന്നെ അവൻ കുറച്ച് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉള്ള ഭാവത്തിൽ കഴുത്തൊക്കെ ചെരിച്ചു പിടിച്ച് നിങ്ങളെ നോക്കുന്നു. he is looking at you. So that means he is listening with your entire body. That means the listening is absolute, full. He is fully into listening to you. Okay, so this is a method of listening to understand. Now, don't interrupt. When you want to listen, you should not interrupt. Okay. Interrupt means you can ask questions and you can amplify whatever he is saying. Interrupt means he is telling you about something and you change the subject or you tell about something. That is interruption. Okay. Repeat what they said. Whatever they are saying, if you repeat the last part, it is an indication of good listening. No, I had a friend in college like this. Okay. And I found that time I found it actually frankly very irritating. So whatever you speak, she will speak that last two words. Okay. ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെ പറയൂ, പിന്നെ ഞാൻ ഇന്നലെ കണ്ണൂർ പോയി, അപ്പോ അവൾ പറയും കണ്ണൂർ പോയി. Okay. അപ്പൊ every last two words, she will keep repeating. So what will happen? So sometimes, but it is actually a sign. It's actually a sign of listening intently, listening to understand, and it is actually a sign that the other person is actually listening to whatever you say. Okay. So repeat what they say means if he is saying something, okay, I did this, or this can be done like this, okay, this can be done like this, understood. So that way you can reinforce his communication. Okay. Respond to what they said. So they say, okay, it is like that, do you agree? So you can respond. Okay. Or even without being asked the question, you can respond. So listening to understand has the primary indications that firstly you should pay complete attention, you should listen with your body, you should not interrupt, you should repeat what they said, and you should respond to what they said. The repetition, responding also very good. Repetition may not be liked by some people. Okay. So if you feel that other person is not liking it, don't repeat every word what they're saying, but you start responding. So this is the basic idea of listening to understand. Okay. Now, coming to effective listening. If you want to effectively listen, so in a longer technical talks, how will you listen? If you are giving a technical class or technical note, or a talk on engineering and technology and all, okay, so either you take notes, you have to take short notes. Okay. The short notes should be basically cover only the keywords spoken by the listener. Okay. By the speaker. Okay. Then you have to visualize when you go back home, and when you go through those points noted, with every point you have to actually associate what is spoke visually. So if you do that, when you read those notes you are taken, you will visualize the speaker speaking those explaining those things. Okay. And that will actually remain in your memory, and you can have a very long term memory if you use this technique. And if you are listening to talks of engineering or technology, if you are listening to engineering or technology, and sometimes they give you a pamphlet or something, if they are not giving a pamphlet or something, then you again take notes or make a flow chart, make visualization diagrams, something like that. Your notes can contain diagrams also, very simplified diagrams also. Okay. So listening to documentaries and making notes. When you're listening to documentary and making notes, if you say it's in a media which you can control, you can pause and take notes. Or if you are listening to a live stream or something, you can take notes. Okay. So when you're taking notes, what you have to focus is that you take on the short notes, because while taking notes, you should not miss out the next part. Whenever we say we focus on something, we started taking notes, the next two sentences, we lose the next two sentences. That should not happen. That's why you only write the keywords, and later on you expand the keyword to a proper note. Now, TED Talks is something which is you can see it in the YouTube. Most of you must be knowing what is TED Talks. Basically, motivational talks of people who have done well in certain areas, people who have overcome some kind of difficulties, people who have proved themselves and who are luminaries. They give this kind of talks. Okay. So when you are listening a TED Talk or something, there is no point in taking notes at all, because you have to listen to the overall experience of that person. He is talking about how I started my business from a small car shed, with 100 rupees, and how I grew my business to $100 million business in 10 years. He must be talking about that. So there is no point in taking notes and all. You have to actually sink that experience in you. He is talking about experience, or somebody is telling you how they have actually climbed Mount Everest. Okay. So you have to actually live, empathize fully, and to be in the other person's shoes and think the complete thing with the full empathy. You have to go through that experience. So that is how you should actually listen to a TED Talk. You have to actually try to experience what he has experienced. Okay. So am I clear till this point? Are you clear till this point? Am I made myself clear till this point? Any doubts? Yeah, can I get a response? Am I with you now? Response? Or are you with me now? Okay, thank you, Anurag. Yes. Agarsh, yes, thank you. So see others also, okay, try to participate, try to be active listener, not only in this kind of classes, in all kind of classes, all classes, try to be an active listener. It is going to give you a lot of benefit. It's going to help you a lot. Okay. So now going forward, developing effective listening skills. How will you develop effective listening skills? See, I told you about all these things. Now the final part comes. How can you become a very good listener? Firstly, consistent eye contact with the while talking. When you want to be a good listener, you are talking to someone or listening to a lecture or whatever, in a one-to-one interaction, make consistent eye contact and make positive cues. Okay, so you will become a very good listener. Avoid distractions. Okay, focus on the matter. I told you before, the Newton's third law, apple and the picnic. Okay, so you have to get apple back to gravitational force again and again. Let it not go to the market. Okay, so you should avoid distractions. For that, you have to have a conscious efforts to avoid distractions. It is not very difficult. It may be a bit. You have to actually put a bit of efforts, in the beginning, but after that it becomes a habit. You will not be distracted at all. Okay, so in the beginning stages you may be distracted a bit. You put conscious efforts to actually take your mind towards the main thing, and it becomes a habit after some time. Do not let random thoughts disturb your flow or break your concentration. Okay, so many thoughts will come in your brain. There was a story when one student went to a guru, a sannyasi kind of a guru. He told him, sir, I want something to make me concentrate. Okay, please give me some kind of knowledge or some kind of exercise or some kind of thing, mantra or something, to make me focus on my studies. I want to concentrate. So Guru said, I will tell you a very great exercise. Okay, very simple exercise, but you will get a lot of concentration. So Guru said this. Okay, I'll tell you what you have to do. Okay, all of you close your eyes. Okay, all of you close your eyes and imagine anything. Imagine anything. You can imagine anything. Okay, start imagining anything you want to imagine. Okay, but don't imagine the image of a monkey jumping on a tree. No, don't imagine monkey. Okay, don't imagine monkey jumping on a tree, but imagine everything. So what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? Okay, what comes to your mind? Any answer? So Guru told this to the student. Okay, you just meditate, you close your eyes, and you imagine anything, but never imagine a monkey jumping on a tree. So whenever the students is sitting, only the monkey comes to his mind. Okay, so whenever he's sitting, whatever he's trying, monkey comes. Okay, so mind is like a monkey. Okay, mind has got a characteristic of whatever is not supposed to be done, mind will jump there only. Okay, mind will jump there only. That is why so many people go towards so many other things other than the right things, isn't it? So mind has got a bad habit. So you have to actually bring that mind consciously towards the focus. So if you want not to be distracted, you have to take it into a single focus. What is happening now and then? You have to live in the present. Okay. Now understand the content of the speech, context of the speech. So whatever the speaker is saying, you should understand the context. That is why I said, if you actually learn what is going to be taught in the class previously, not learn, actually flip through and have some kind of idea of what is going to be taught, your understanding, your effective listening will be much better. Okay. And show you as an effective listener by nodding and other non-verbal cues. You should always show yourself as an effective listener to the speaker. Then the empathy will grow and communication will be much more effective. Avoid conversation when stressed or overworked. When you are not in a mood to actually talk or discuss something. This basically for discussions and all. So when you are not in a mood to discuss something, don't do it, because you will not be a good listener and that conversation will be a failure. Okay. And pick up important points and let the speaker know. You have to pick up some important points and let the speaker know that I am actually listening to this. You have to give a feedback. You have to get the important points from that, and you can tell, just like I told you, that senior officer, when I gave him a 10 minutes brief, he's telling me those 3 points. He has actually filtered the important points and told me. So next time I go there, I know that this guy will listen, and I will even better. I will project my points even in a better fashion. And slowly the bond become very empathetic, and we develop a very good mutual understanding, isn't it? So that is a very effective technique. Now ask open-ended questions. Don't ask yes or no questions. Ask open-ended questions as far as possible, because that opens a wider way for communication. stay equipped with knowledge. Okay, you should have knowledge of the subject you are talking or you are listening. Then only you can have open a very good communication channel, and you can become a very good listener. If you don't know the subject at all, then you cannot become a very good listener. At least you should have a basic idea of what is the context and what is being taught. Okay, provide small encouragements to the speaker. Okay, you nod, you said, oh, is it so? So some kind of a verbal clues and something you give to the speaker, and that bridge between you and the speaker becomes very strong, and the communication which is passed to you is much more valuable and effective. And practice listening at home. Use some techniques to practice listening at home. Okay, you have to practice a bit listening to podcasts. There are so many videos and audios you will find in the internet which actually practices for better listening. So you can actually, there are audios for better reading, audios for better listening. So you can check it in some podcast sites or in the YouTube and all. You will find this. And I'm telling you, you spend around 2 hours, almost total 2 hours in a full semester, just practicing these things. If you spend 2 hours, you get a lot of benefit throughout your semester. I'm telling you. Okay, try to spend just 2 hours on this kind of things. Okay. So with this, I come to the end of my class. I got another 4 minutes remaining till the time this is over. So basically, what we discussed today is listening skills. We say what is the different kinds of listening, what is the process of listening, and what are the barriers of listening, what should you avoid, and what is the different kinds of listening for different contexts like technical papers and TED Talks and effective listening, active listening, passive listening. Okay, all these things. What are the non-verbal cues you can give to make that empathetic bond between the speaker and the listener? I told you certain techniques how you can actually improve your academic performance by becoming a better listener, by getting a bit more information about the subject to be taught, and by using certain non-verbal cues between your teacher and you, and by interacting more and more, how you can actually gain a better delivery of information from the speaker to the listener. Okay, and I have told you certain ways to improve and develop your effective listening skills. Okay, so this is the summary of today's class. I hope you liked it. Anybody any question you can ask? Anybody any question you can ask? Another 3 minutes I got. Any question, anybody? No questions? So you can give feedback also. If nobody has got questions, you can give some feedback about this class. Was this useful? Was this okay? Or was this going above your head? Or was this highly technical? Or was this very easy to digest? So what's your opinion? Please give a feedback. See feedback. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
am I audible? Thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. I truly appreciate you and the time you spend with us in helping us know more about the course. We got a detailed idea of the interviews, how the jury and the debate takes place, and also about the importance of the listening skills in our life. It would be really helpful for us in future. It was a pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And
Thanks
also,
a lot. Yeah,
okay, and also on the behalf of the S2 students, I would like to thank our coordinator, Rahul sir, and HOD Renji ma'am for organizing this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nainika, and thanks everybody. Thanks once more. Hopefully, we'll get more opportunities to interact in future. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
And for sharing your knowledge for the benefit of our students. So, students, with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. Good day.